Hello everybody, it's a magical day outside, it's a magical day inside, and hopefully you're all having magical lives. So I thought I would discuss magic, one of my favourite subjects, magic. What is magic? You know, some of the old sci-fi writers, I can't remember which one it was, that said that, you know, magic really is science that we don't know yet, or, you know, scientific uh, ways that have not been fathomed and worked out, and so everyone calls it magic because they don't understand how it works. Who knows? You know, I'd like to believe that there's a realm out there that we can tap into through our, perhaps our subconscious, or if we develop ourselves, that we can make ourselves um, more akin or aware of what or how to use the energies of the planet, hopefully not to manipulate or to dominate or to possess, but instead to use to make things better for everybody. Who knows? You know, is this what the gods had, some kind of magic, or is it just that they're more attuned to the world maintenance and how everything works, all the laws that are going on in the universe, and can just tap into them laws and do things that we find unusual? Though Gurdjieff does stress we don't need to have all these powers, we don't need to be telepathic or have telekinetic powers. It's a distraction, but some of us would like to have them. But we shouldn't, because they're not great for us, but we should be working on ourselves and developing our essence instead. So I've got a piece here from In Search of the Miraculous. The page has just turned over, sorry. So this is by Ouspensky, talking about magic. There are many imitation ways, imitation groups, and imitation work. These are not even black magic. There is mechanics, that is, what happens, and there is doing. Doing is magic, and doing can only be of one kind. There cannot be two kinds of doing. But there can be a falsification, an imitation of the outward appearance of doing, which cannot give any objective results, but which can deceive naive people and produce in them faith, infatuation, enthusiasm, and even fanaticism. And we see that a lot with people over the centuries. You know, someone does some wonderful, wild miracle in front of people, and they start following that person, believing that they're, you know, obviously better than them, that they will either lead them to having magic powers themselves, or follow them because they are perhaps a bit scared of them or cautious of them. You know, we all get blown away by seeing wonderful magical tricks. You know, I get quite blown away by Darren Brown's tricks, and, you know, David Blaine and all the tricks and magic that they do. You know, and would perhaps in a few hundred years ago, if they came and did that out on the streets, you know, when we're living in the old medieval towns or something, we would have thought they were some kind of magic man. So carrying on with In Search of the Miraculous. This is why in true work, that is, in true doing, the producing of infatuation in people is not allowed. And that's what happens, isn't it? You know, I get quite taken away by these kind of people, and you start thinking, how do they do that? I want to be like them, I want to learn from them. You know, you idolize them, put them on a pedestal. Shouldn't be putting anyone on a pedestal. No one needs to be on a pedestal. We're all equals, and it's all how we develop. We can help each other and guide each other and advise each other when we can. Advice isn't always a great thing to be doing either, but we shouldn't be setting anybody up on them pedestals. This is why in true work, that is, in true doing, the producing of infatuation in people is not allowed. What you call black magic is based on infatuation and playing upon human weaknesses. Black magic does not in any way mean magic of evil. I've already said earlier that no one ever does anything for the sake of evil, in the interests of evil. And I kind of go along with that. You know, people say like Hitler was evil. And I'm not saying that I like what Hitler did. I don't agree with what he did. But in his mind, the way he was seeing himself, he wasn't sitting there thinking, oh, evil me, ha, 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 you know, like an evil villain from a movie. What he thought he was doing was right. You know, and this is why all these psychopaths and people that do such awful serial killers and things, they think what they're doing is right. They might have a little bit of conscience in them telling them this is wrong, don't do this, but something's driving them to do it. It's quite a complicated subject, and people need to look into psychotherapy and things like that for this. But it's whether your conscience is awake that makes you realize what the difference is between right and wrong. And if your conscience isn't awake, then you usually think that what you're doing is right, is for the right, is for the good. You know, people believe that Jesus told them to do it, and we've got serial killers that say the devil made them do it. So maybe they are aware that what they're doing is wrong, but they can't seem to switch away from it or stop it or let their conscience come through and stop what's happening. You know, complicated subject. So black magic does not in any way mean magic of evil. I've already said earlier that no one ever does anything for the sake of evil in the interests of evil. Everyone always does everything in the interests of good as he understands it. It is quite wrong to assert that black magic must necessarily be egotistical, that in black magic a man strives after some results for himself. Black magic may be quite altruistic, may strive after the good of humanity or after the salvation of humanity from real or imaginary evils. But what can be called black magic has always one definite characteristic, the tendency to use people for some, even the best of aims, without their knowledge and understanding, either by producing in them faith and infatuation or by acting on them through fear. And I would definitely agree on that. When you're doing something on someone or for someone without their knowledge, that's black magic. When people are sitting there trying to, curse someone from far away or put a hex on them or, the hating on somebody, that's black magic. Now, as I've said before, it's them thoughts that we're putting out that affect people. It goes out into the ether and passes along. And, they don't telepathically pick up your evil thoughts of them, but they will pick something up. Maybe they don't understand what it is. They're probably not attuned to what it is, but something will feel wrong and they can't put their finger on it. So we must be careful with what we think, as we've said before. But I also think black magic, myself, I think black magic is shedding of blood of any kind. All these people that used to do all the old magic of, slice the sheep's throat or the, sacrifice a cockerel to the whatever they're worshipping or sacrificing to. I think that is black magic myself, because I think blood is a precious life force within us and very sacred, and the spilling of it is what I call black magic, is a spilling of the divine out into the open. It's an evil doing of a kind, though many people use that kind of thing for initiating their magical rituals, but I'm quite against all that. I don't want to see any sacrificing of animals, humans, fish, whatever. No bloodshed. Right. So what can be called black magic has always one definite characteristic, the tendency to use people for some, even the best of aims, without their knowledge and understanding, either by producing in them faith and infatuation or by acting on them through fear. Various occult and theosophical societies and groups are worse than black magic. Because in some ways they are. Some of my theosophist friends won't like this. Are using what they're saying and doing to promote, I have to be really careful how I say this, maybe a misunderstanding of how the world works. But they also say, and it's not just them groups that Ouspensky mentions here, it's quite a few, their way is the only way. And no one else can go do it except for their way. I have had many people say to me, you must pick a way. Why should I pick a way? I only do what I want to do and what feels right to me. As William Blake said, he would rather do his own thing as well. And again, I said I'd have that quote ready and I've forgotten it. But, I don't want to be a slave to another man's dictatorship, another man's philosophy, another man's theology. I'm happy to look and learn from other people and share ideas, but I will do it my way. And hopefully I'm not falling down. So various occult and theosophical societies and groups are worse than black magic. Instead of realizing their own nothingness, the members of such circles acquire a realization of their own importance and a growth of false personality. And that's something we're trying not to do, is to have a growth of false personality. We want to be as real and genuine as we can be. So he also says, Ouspensky also says in Search of the Miraculous, there exists also a symbology of magic, of alchemy, and of astrology, as well as the system of the tarot, which unites them into one whole. Each one of these systems can serve as a means for transmitting the idea of unity. And I do agree with that. Symbolism is a fantastic thing to work on. You can go and study it for yourself. You know, there's loads of books on it. There's loads of other people talk about it. Many people want to give fixed meanings and views to what symbols are. But I really think, you know, look at them and understand what they're saying, and then get what you can from them symbols. You know, I quite like looking at symbols. We've got the Enneagram in the Gurdjieff work. Meditate on that. The tarot, as I've said in the past, is a fantastic storyline of how people can follow the path of development, and not really a thing for divination. So go and study a tarot card, perhaps meditate on a tarot card and see what symbols come out to you and enter into you as you look into this. Astrology, again, is another way of learning about yourself, about how the planets are working, and looking at the whole. So I don't think there's anything wrong in them kind of magics, because they're helping develop yourself. And if you can use a tool in that kind of way, that's great. I wanted to do a quote from Views from the Real World. So this will be Gurdjieff speaking now. Everything is in motion. No motion follows a straight line, but has simultaneously a twofold direction, circling round itself and falling towards the nearest centre of gravity. This is the law of falling, which is usually called the law of motion. From the most ancient times, people knew how to use and control these laws of nature. This direction of mechanical laws by man is magic, and includes not only transformation of substances in the desired direction, but also resistance or opposition to certain mechanical influences based on the same laws. So kind of like what I was saying at the beginning, these people that people thought were doing all these magical things, they were just attuned to the laws of the universe. So people who know these universal laws and know how to use them are magicians. There is white and black magic. White magic uses its knowledge for good. Black magic uses knowledge for evil, for its own selfish purposes. Like great knowledge, magic, which has existed from the most ancient times, has never been lost, and knowledge is always the same. Only the form in which this knowledge was expressed and transmitted changed, depending on the place and the epoch. And, you know, over the years, people have misused books, grimoires, teachings, you know, for their own selfish personal ends. And this is why all this kind of teaching was usually kept in the mystery schools, because if it gets into the wrong hands, it can be misused. It's like the Force in the Jedi stories and the Star Wars films. There's one force, but it's what you use it for, good or evil, you know, dark or light. It's how you use the force, how you use the magic, how you use the energy is what turns you either way. As Yoda used to say, fear leads to the dark side. You know, love, understanding, wisdom leads to the light side. What colour lightsaber do you want? Is how you've got to look at it. And remember, red lightsabers are the dark side. I've had discussions of this with people. Blue, green, purple, yellow, they're all good lightsabers. Mine's gold. Right, so where did I get to? Blah, 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 blah. Not great knowledge. So only the form in which this knowledge was expressed and transmitted changed depending on the place and epoch. For instance, now we speak in a language which 200 years hence will no longer be the same, and 200 years ago the language was different. In the same way, the form in which the great knowledge is expressed is barely comprehensible to subsequent generations and is mostly taken literally. In this way, the inner content becomes lost for most people. Christ too was a magician, a man of knowledge. So true magicians are people of knowledge, and from that knowledge comes wisdom, using knowledge in the right way. Can't just have knowledge, we need the wisdom to go along with it to be able to express things properly. But in all ancient wisdoms, there's an underlying truth that runs through them all. And that truth can be, covered up by certain people or put into parables so that only those with ears to hear can hear. This is why we have to delve deep into these teachings and these workings and these writings. So continue being a magical person, and I hope you develop the magician in yourself so that you can go forth. And I was going to say from the tarot, that's the story of developing yourself as a magician. It starts off with the Fool, number 0. Number 1 is the magician, you heading off on your path, creating your magical path. So stay magical, people. Until next time, create good spells.